Hello and welcome to Raise Your Vibes right here on KP Media TV. I'm your host, Athena Bahri, Reiki Master, author of award-winning book, Raise Your Vibes, and creator of Crystalreikihealer, bringing you spiritual education, meditations, the gift of Reiki, and inspirational guests from around the world to help guide you on your journey to live happier and healthier. Thank you for tuning in. It is such a gift to be sharing energy with you here on KP Media TV. Today's show is sponsored by Westwood Clinic of West Los Angeles, California, where wellness is found with compassion, chiropractic care, and healing tools of the highest technology for your physical pain relief and healing. They are a certified MLS laser therapy facility, helping thousands of patients reclaim their health and overcome the limitations of living with pain. Find out more about this amazing healing space at westwoodclinic.com. And now we have a very special guest joining us today. Please welcome Dr. Jenelle Kim, a doctor of Chinese medicine, a master herbalist, a dedicated student of martial arts and Eastern philosophy for more than 30 years, and author of her new book, Myung Sung, The Korean Art of Living Meditation. Dr. Kim, thank you so much for joining us here on Raise Your Vibes. I'm so grateful to have you on the show today.
I'm so grateful and honored to be here. Thank you so much, Athena.
Oh, thank you so much. So in your book, and am I pronouncing this right? Is it Myung Sung or Myung Sung?
You said it beautifully. Myung Sung. That is correct.
Myung Sung. Oh, fantastic. So in your book, you talk about living meditation. Now, when most people think of meditation, they think they have to go into this, quiet space, erase all thought, and have this, enlightenment come to them. So what's the difference here with living meditation and how people can use that, throughout their day?
Absolutely. I really appreciate this question. These principles have been passed down my lineage for many generations. It even goes, of course, much further than my lineage, as it is. I don't know how far back. We can say centuries, we can say thousands of years, but basically these are the principles that come from our understanding of the universe. I think that will be an incredible conversation that I'm sure we'll dive into, of even the understanding of Reiki and how ultimately it's about connecting to the universe. Living meditation is no different. So I always like to make it very clear that I'm a huge proponent of meditation techniques, right? Seated, standing, moving, whether that's for 15 minutes, 15 hours, 15 days, 15 years, right?
Yes.
As it turns out, right? My teacher, my mentor was my father. He was one of my greatest, who unfortunately passed about 6 years ago, but that was one of the catalysts that really wanted me to share this book. And he was someone who in his lifetime, his destiny, if you will, what he was called to do and how he was supposed to connect with this, it was his choice ultimately, and he chose to, was going to the mountains at the age of 7 to 14, right? Much different than even my experience. And so that's something that I really that's where this comes from. I know that that's important for me to know when I hear about, different principles or ways of thought, ways of living. And so living meditation is, you said it beautifully, Athena, it's how all of the things that we wish to achieve during meditation, and I always like to take a moment, if it's okay with you, because I learned so much, to ask you, Athena, because I know how in touch you are and how important that is. What does meditation mean to you? Why do you do the practices that you do?
Meditation really was kind of one of those things that was like a catalyst to changing everything. Being able to tune in to what was important to me and my purpose and why I was here, what I was doing. There was always so much worry about, am I doing the right thing? Am I not? And one of the Reiki principles is, just for today, I will not worry. And with this traditional meditation, all these techniques, like you mentioned with this, you have to sit, you have to, hold your hands in a certain way. And you know what, if that works for you, fantastic. I'm definitely not against it. But I find that it creates worry, because then people are like, well, can I do this? I can't stop. I can't turn my brain off. I can't focus. And then they just give up and they walk away from it. So I started with mindfulness through UCLA. And I really loved when they did mindfulness. You could use it with food. You could do it during walking. You could do it laying down. You could do the traditional sitting. But there were so many other ways to kind of quiet that mind so that you could tap into, your purpose or what was important for you. And it really was in line with the Reiki principles. So I kind of found this connection, was like, oh, I love this. So now when I hear about people that are struggling with meditation, it's like, let's just take the stress out of it. Like this is not something that should stress you out. This is something that should, if anything, bring you more peace. So what does it mean for me? It's a moment for me to have that clarity, that calm, to set aside the daily stresses and all the minutia that really interfere with helping us move forward with our goals. So
I absolutely love that. And that is
kind
why
of
I'm
how
so
that works for me. Yeah.
I'm grateful for that answer. That's why I really, truly love to ask this question when I have the opportunity to meet such incredible individuals such as yourself. And you said it, you mentioned before, I saw that you already saw some synergies between us. And honestly, what you just said was almost verbatim what I say, right? Which is, I saw that as well, Athena. These are, and that is what has been passed down my lineage for so long from our great teachers and our sages, our ancient sages. And what they spoke on was very much this. So while, again, I am also a proponent, maybe a little more so because it is a practice I find is helpful, of some seated type of meditations and movements to help to calm ourselves, to become aware and present, have clarity. I heard you say all of this. But yes, I too agree with you. Number one, why stop there? Does it make sense? One of the things that I love about the principles that have been handed down, they are so profound, but in my humble experience, they're also so straightforward. And I find that I very much connect to that. Sounds like you definitely do. And already I'm seeing, when I've gone out with Myung Sung Living Meditation, people have been responding that way. And that means so much to me. Janelle, it just makes sense. And especially after the last couple of years, it's really refreshing, to say the least, when something just makes sense. And so,
that's beautiful,
right? It's just, let's get down.
Yes.
Who can disagree with that, right? Well, maybe somebody, but.
So if someone were to come to you and say, Dr. Kim, I just, no matter what I do, I can't figure out a way to, quiet my mind. Everything just keeps going. How would you, recommend to them? What practice would you suggest to help them kind of get to that space?
Yes. So I am all about what I call the 3 M's, or the 3 pillars. And this is kind of the overall picture before I get into the 8 keys, which is basically our tools that we can have and utilize at any given moment. In fact, the entire Myung Sung Living Meditation, the entire book, that's how it's laid out. Instead of chapters, it's keys. And so when I speak of the 3 M's, which is kind of the foundation of it all, it talks about meditation, living meditation in this sense, just as you and I are speaking of, Athena, not just meditation where we sit down or we're seated to certain techniques, but bringing that into our everyday life. As a parent, as a business owner, I have 2 young boys, I own several businesses. As a family member, my family is so important to me, with our friends, with our community, and the way in which we relate to the universe and nature, basically everything around us. And so that is a huge part, that meditation, the first of the 3 M's. Second is medicine. So the first 20 years of my life, I dedicated my life to sharing to the best of my ability with all areas of the world, as much as I possibly can, who especially were not familiar with Eastern medicine. I'm a huge proponent of East and West, and that'll go into key number 1, where you have to know the difference. You have to be aware as you possibly can constantly to make the correct decision. But basically, medicine is, how do we incorporate different wellness principles, practices, food. I love that you mentioned that. Mindfulness can be in food. That is living meditation. That's what our teachers taught us. And then finally, the 3rd M is movement, right? Movement can be in exactly what I said before. That's why I'm a huge proponent of certain meditation or inner practices, yoga, tai chi, understanding, I'm sure, certain principles of Reiki that we can kind of extend into our personal lives, learning from a master such as yourself, right? And so basically we take those 3 things, and it is my firm belief, I know, and what's been passed on for so long, that if we incorporate all of these things, if we're aware of them and utilize them to the best of our ability, and remember that we always have the choice of whether to do so or not, that is how we can live a life to the best of our ability that is balanced and find happiness, right? On a deeper level. And we can do so through 8 keys. And that's where the book comes in.
I love it. I love it. And I love that they have this guide now where they can go through. When I was reading your book, it was so much of it resonated so much. It was just like, wow, like I got to talk to this woman. This is amazing. And I really love how you bring in the stories. So there's a lot of stories in there that you bring in, how your father came into even becoming a monk, how he started
Right.
studying this, how this all began for him. And I love the little boy like waiting to be invited,
Yes.
and like, okay, should I stay here? Should I not? What's happening? And it's kind of, I saw a lot of similarities here with life. I feel like, as children and as we grow up, even as adults, it's like we're sitting there waiting for something to happen, waiting to be, either initiated or brought into something that is, our goals, whatever they may be. And really, then I love how he gets up and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to start following him, and I'm just going to start seeing what he's doing and how he's feeding himself. And it's like, yes, this is what we have to do. This is how you kind of take your own power back.
Yes.
Why are we waiting for, someone to lead us here? We need to be that one that leads us there.
Yes.
And during meditations, like I love the walking meditation method. I think this is one of my favorites. And it's usually like while I'm hiking, or I'll take my dog out, and it really, like, I connect to nature at the same time. And you have all that beautiful, like, fresh air when you're out hiking. And it really stills the mind, especially if things are just hectic and crazy. You go out there and you walk, and it's like everything just kind of, calms down, takes you down.
Yes.
And this is meditation, but not in its formal sense. So
Right.
I love that people can have, some ideas and options of how they can really connect within themselves.
Yes.
And in the book, it really gives inspiration to take those steps for yourself,
Yes.
to live the dreams that you want. No, don't wait for it. Don't wait for somebody else to bring you in there.
Yes.
So I love that you have all these stories in there. How did you apply these then to your life? Because now you've gone on, you've done Chinese, Eastern medicine and acupuncture, I believe, right? As
Yes.
well.
Focus
So
more on
you
herbal medicine, but absolutely, that's part of my studies and
part of
practice.
your studies. So how did these stories kind of lead you to this path, and how you have done what you have so far?
Yes, I really appreciate all that you just said, Athena. It very much is exactly where my heart is coming from. It was very important to me. The reality is, for the last 10 years of my father's life, certainly I was with him for, 33. In the last 10 years of his life, I knew, to be really transparent, I knew I had a limited time. I can't tell you how or why, but I did. And it was in the back of my mind. So I sat there for 10 years, basically, writing down notes, writing down stories, truly starting to absorb all that had been passed down in our lineage. My father would be the first to tell you that he is truly a vessel of this philosophy. It's not my father's words or his thoughts. It's not his teacher, as you see in the story, Master Bodhian's words or thoughts. It's what has been passed down, and the ways in which, when it comes into some of our lives in this way, including myself as part of this lineage, again, we have the choice of what we're going to do with them. Are we going to do anything? And when we decide what to do with them, how do we go about doing so? And so, to answer your question about these stories, they have always been a part of my life. In fact, that was a huge part and way, if you will, of how I was raised, how I was taught, particularly by my greatest mentor, my father. And that's why I thought it was so important to put it in the book this way. I love that you bring this up, because it's not something I have gotten to talk about much. But what was really
Wonderful.
important to me, I know that keeps happening. I'm grateful. One of the things that meant a lot to me is I wanted it to be, I truly wished for the reader to have that feeling. Number one, that of course, read it from front to back if you wish, but it's something there constantly to help us throughout our day as tools, the 8 keys. And even these stories, my wish was that you, and I think I know for a fact I say that in the beginning of the book, when you read these stories, put yourself in those shoes, because that's a lot of what living meditation is about. Change your perspective, open your mind. Just like when we sit down to meditate, we wish to awaken or reach a certain amount of enlightenment. What does that actually mean? It means opening our mind, seeing more clearly, putting ourselves in other people's shoes so that we can understand that much more in depth. Right. And so my hope is that through even these stories, you put yourselves in. It's hard for me to even believe. I have an 8-year-old son. When he turned 7, you better believe I looked at him and thought, oh my goodness, I knew this day would come. That is how old my father was when he went to the mountains of East Asia to learn from his master. It's a movie to me as well.
Amazing.
it's just different. I hear you. And that's one of the reasons I thought, I'm going to share this. It is different, particularly for Western culture. In Eastern culture, it's a little more understood that there are, especially young boys who go to the temple, study sometimes for their whole life, sometimes for a couple of years. But ultimately,
Right.
why it was important in conclusion is that you're able to do that. The reader's able to actually absorb. I was taught it's one thing to
Yeah.
memorize words. It's another to make it your own. And you
Yes.
literally see that in the example you just said, Athena. Even my father being 7 years old, when he decided this is the teacher that I wish, that teacher did not just open their door.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he made him work for it, didn't he?
Yes, absolutely.
He's
Because
like,
if
no,
you
do you want this? And that's it's true with anything in life. If you really
Yes.
want it, it's something that you have to work towards. And that's what I really got from that story and his beginning studying with him. I thought that was so cool because it's like people forget, life is not going to just hand it to you. You have to do the work, and you
Yes.
have to show up and be present. And,
Yes.
if you really want it, that's what that drive to continue is what will lead you to where you are.
That's
And
exactly
I
right.
love that he did that. And I can't imagine my own 8-year-old son
Yes.
going off to the mountains, right? I mean, that must have been
Hard to believe,
incredible for
although I
his
do say that
parents.
to Vince sometimes. Vince, and I
Yes.
really mean it, you better behave because it's my job to make sure that you become a very good human being in this life, and I will send you to the mountains like your grandfather.
I will send you to the mountains.
He's like, oh my gosh, I'm not joking.
And I will leave you there. So you better.
Because
Yeah.
that's my job, is to make sure that you're a good human being. And I know that
Absolutely.
if that's what I have to do, he's my everything, that's what I would have to do. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. It seems a little
and in Western culture, we don't have that. It seems like it's more, this ethic of like work to get to where you want. And if you, you do the studying, you go to school, you get the degree, all this stuff, you go through take these steps, and then you're going to get to where you are. So I feel like so much of this time that we're spending, working towards this goal, we're never living it. We're not enjoying this process. If you talk to any student that's, going through medical school, especially, they get out of medical school and they almost don't even remember half the stuff they just went through because it's all been like crammed into their brain. And then they lose a lot of this, the reason they went into it to begin with, and this desire to actually help people becomes like this routine. So I'd love to see some more of this. It doesn't have to be Eastern medicine to appreciate the values. Just bringing this focus this change of focus, I think would be really helpful in today's world, especially now we've been in this pandemic, right, for the last 2 years. And I know that it's had its, it's been a struggle for so many still are, but it's really given us a time to turn inward as well, where so many of the distractions of our daily, minutia had to be set aside. That's why I think you've seen so many, make it or break it with relationships, with marriages, with school. So many people have struggled with this, but there's a silver lining there because they're able to tune into what really is important to them. And I don't think anybody has been able to take that time to do that, to just pause life for a second, pause the rat race, as I call it, and really tune into what is important and what matters. And we're starting to see a little bit of this. So as we're coming out of this pandemic, as we're slowly but surely edging our way out of here, what do you say to people to remind them of this time where we were able to tune in? What would you say to them to help them take that forward rather than just go back to the same, perspective and, hamster wheel that we were in before?
Right. No, that's a perfect question. And it's actually something I've heard you say a lot. And it's key number one, which is know your true self. The truth of the matter is, no matter who you are, what your beliefs are, whether we lived hundreds of years ago, whether we're speaking of someone who lived hundreds of years from now, we're all human. And one thing exists. We have the choice at the end of the day. It's so empowering. It can also be so frightening. And I'll be the first to say this. When you start to really understand that you are the person who is in control of yourself, you cannot avoid, you cannot control things that happen to you around us. So what can we do to have that empowerment, to be able to change our life when we wish, to change our reality for the better, which is another key, right? Key number one, know your true self. You've said it before on just a couple minutes ago. You have to have responsibility and accountability. You have to see clearly. So that's kind of leads into key number two. So number one, remember, you always have the choice to react or to respond. And my wish in my life, and what I see many people wishing to have, is that proper response, not just to be reactive. Key number 2 goes into kind of how we look at that in life. The tools that it's I think one of the most important tools that has been passed on for so many centuries. The way I explain it is this way. It almost looks like an equation, which there's something about that I like, right? I very much am in connection, and that means so much to me, but it is that yin and that yang, just like you said, right? We have to go about our daily life. That's our reality. Yes. But we also have to connect, right? And so true plus right equals correct. True means, in short, it's how we feel about a situation, right? Our feelings about it, our emotions about it. It's very important. But if we constantly react based on those emotions that are constantly changing, that is a very chaotic way of living when you just think of it that way, right?
Absolutely.
So look at the truth of any situation. Again, parenting, in business, I practice this all the time with my family, even in the community, especially right now where there's so many extremes happening. What is the truth? How do you feel about it? Then look at the right of the situation. The way I would describe that is the right could be what appears to be the best for everyone involved. The key word here is appears, right? It's kind of like the black and white of a situation. We all agree not to lie. We all agree not to steal. I think for the most part, we're all in agreement, as I just said. Then you take that and you arrive at the correct. Here I know how I feel. Now I zoom out a bit. Stop living life like this all the time. It's our choice. We choose to open our mind a little more, see the situation that much more clearly, put ourselves in other people's shoes. Maybe we might have a better understanding of what the right of that situation is. That's how we arrive to ultimately the correct decision, the correct action. And it's all about action. At the end of the day, to me, actually, this morning I woke up thinking about us, and what hit me today was meditation is all of these things we talk about, purifying ourselves, calming ourselves, being present. But another thing that's been passed down for so long that I resonate with very much and is a very actionable thing is that it trains our minds. We train ourselves to have proper habits, and that's what living meditation is all about.
And that is absolutely the meditation right there, is training your mind, helping yourself not to be reactive and to respond appropriately. And such a big part of that. I love how you talk about putting yourself in other people's shoes. This seems to be something that a lot of us struggle with. Maybe we come into it as we get older, as when we're younger, we typically are more selfish. It's about, how we feel, what we want. And I try to raise my own kids to think outside of that as well. Like, think about how this would make the other person feel. It's not just so much be nice to them as you want them to be to you. It kind of goes beyond that. It's not just about being kind, which is very important, but it's about really trying to see the world through their eyes, trying to understand what makes them tick. Because when you understand how people respond, why they respond, you just have a much better understanding of where they're coming from. And then in turn, you have a lot more empathy for the position they're in. And then when you understand that kind of alters your own response, your own emotional response, because you're able to kind of see it from their side. You're able to kind of detach your own emotional involvement to, whatever is happening. So, a lot of the times I'll say, when my kids are upset, a teacher was, mean to them that day, say, just think, maybe some things happen in their life and they're projecting that pain onto you, because so many of us, all of us, we're all guilty of it. Depending if we're in a good mood or in a bad mood, we will project onto others, our stresses or our issues, even our love, which I much prefer to project love. But if that's, we've had a bad day, a lot of times, especially parents, they'll snap snap out loud to their kid or, their kids, like at dinner or, something that's supposed to be this wonderful family time. And they end up responding in a way that just doesn't equal the situation. And I always think it's really wonderful for people to just realize that we do that. Like pause for a moment, think of where you are in your headspace, and just pause. Am I reacting because I'm having an emotional day, or am I responding in a way that is appropriate for the situation? So I love that you bring this up, and I love that throughout the book, it's not that you have to, you can read start to finish, like you were saying, but you don't have to read start to finish. I mean, you can go in, like, if you want to learn more about, your different keys, maybe you don't want to start at 1, maybe you want to start at 7, and just learn about it, work your way backwards even. I really love and appreciate that you do that. In my own book, I wrote it like that too, where it's more like a guide where you can go in and, choose the part that resonates for you in the moment.
Yes.
And I feel like when you do that, you'll return to it more. You'll
Absolutely.
keep practicing it.
That's right.
Just like with anything, if it's easy to digest and take in that information, it's a lot easier to follow the principles. And I
Yes.
love that your book allows people to do that.
Thank you.
It's
Yeah.
so great. I love start to finish books as well, but I love that yours, you can go from section to section depending on where your needs are for that day.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it's so beautiful. So just to help people understand kind of where you're coming from, and you're a parent and you run different businesses and you've got a lot on your plate. So with all of this comes stress. With all of this comes, your mind working, a mile a minute at moments. Do you have a morning ritual that you would use to just set your day into the positive that you could recommend that anybody else or anybody watching would be able to incorporate into their daily routine?
Absolutely. And that's, of course, such an important part of our everyday. Every moment is important, particularly when we wake up in the morning. How do we set our mind? How do we set the day for ourselves? Because
Yes, because
everything
it
comes from within.
changes
Always,
it can change the
always.
entire day. How your day runs is how
Absolutely.
you begin.
Absolutely.
So yes, what would be your morning ritual for
Right.
this
Right. So
purpose?
how I wake up in the morning, because I do have 2 young kids, I have emails going off at every single moment of the 24-hour period. Also very connected
Yes.
to my family, friends. You see the kind of repetitive what's important to me. So morning is most important for me, especially because I have 2 small children. Right. So no matter what, and they even know this now, for at least 15 minutes in the morning, I do my internal practice. I'm a huge proponent of internal practices such as yoga, or qigong, tai chi. I incorporate tai chi, qigong for at least 15 minutes because it is my way of meditation where I set my mind, and also I connect, right? I connect within myself, mind, body, spirit. Therefore, I'm able to connect better with those around me, see more clearly. And my wish and my intention is that I also take it to that third step of connecting with nature and the universe around me. Because I believe very strong in what living meditation is based upon is that if we do that, if we plug into the Tao or the universe, we can go about, that's the East and the West, the yin and yang, the night, the day, the feminine, masculine, the loud, the soft. There's always that dichotomy. But if we remember that we can work, and I'm one of them, we can work so hard during our day. Let's look at business, for example. We own businesses, we have our job, we have to work hard. I'm a huge person on work ethic, but also let it be known that I'm a huge person on acknowledging and always grounding myself in and plugging into the universe, because I know just as important as my work ethic and working nonstop to make sure that I'm able to achieve all that I wish to achieve, to let the formulas out, to let the philosophy out, to let this understanding out, and try to help as many people as possible in my lifetime. I also know that work and that doing and that almost that yang energy of action, just as important as me connecting to the universe, to be able to hear,
Yes.
to be able to be kind of guided by nature and chi and energy, right? Not everyone understands
Absolutely.
that. But if you tune in, you feel the difference. And I believe if you're connected in that way, that's why I start my morning ritual that way. So I wake up, I do my at least 15 minutes of movement. My wish is that I have at least 5 minutes after that to sit down for a meditation, even 5 minutes. And I love, you said a couple minutes ago, Athena, one of the reasons I decided to just go ahead and write this book, because it wasn't so easy. How do you take these principles, these profound principles, and put them down on a paper? It was very, very important to me that I did it correctly. And I no longer had my father, my mentor here to kind of check me. And so I was a little paralyzed at first, right? But then I realized it has to just happen. And so one of the reasons I decided that, as I said a couple minutes ago, you said, sometimes we look around us and even the thought of meditation stresses us out. And already we've started off our evening, our daytime in a stressed out place because of meditation.
Because of meditation, it's the opposite of what it's supposed to attain.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so many people do get stressed out with this. And I love that you're taking this moment, because I do very similar, not with, with yoga or, another Tai Chi or anything like that, but I have my morning gratitude practice. And I really find that such a huge difference on days when I either forget or I'm jumping out of bed too soon, or it's like, oh my gosh, I need to go rush and take them to school, or my alarm went off late. If I don't take those few minutes to just really center myself,
Right.
and tune in and remind myself, raise my vibration to
Yes.
one that's positive. Because then when you start from this place, no matter what happens during your day, it's like you can handle it. It's okay. It's not going to take you out for the day. And that's what really helps keep me going. And I really certainly notice the days are different on the ones that I forget to do that.
Yes,
So, or
absolutely.
just something happens that I'm not able to. So,
Right.
and of course, you can always turn to this later in the day. Let's say, you forgot, the day's not over. It's not like it's just, oh,
Yes,
well, we'll try
absolutely.
again tomorrow. It's
And with
okay.
living meditation, Athena, when you start to
Yes.
practice these keys, which we haven't, gotten to speak of every one, nor did I think we could, but I think some people have had some of this understanding. Like, for example, key number 3 is stop being drunk on your own thoughts. It seems kind of crazy. Like, what in the world is she talking about? There's a Korean word for this, or phrase. It's called dochi. And it's so much of what we're talking about. Even if you go about your day with that key number 3, what that means is, again, change your perspective. Just as you can become intoxicated by alcohol, you can become intoxicated because you can't zoom out. You're so stuck in your own thoughts and beliefs that you can't even stop to see someone else's. You cannot open your mind.
Yes.
And you can imagine that through living meditation, yes, let's all hope we have the couple of minutes in the morning to set our minds. But if we cannot, know that you can take this throughout your entire day. When you're in a situation, stop for a second. Like you said, that's exactly how I pause.
Yes. Just
Look,
pause.
or
Learn
don't.
to embrace the
Funny.
pause.
Yes, right? Or don't. I always like to say the other part too. If you choose not to, then don't. But when your life, you find that there's a lot of chaos, it's very reactionary, maybe then you'll take a pause to realize,
Yes.
what? Maybe I should take a pause. Take a pause to think about taking a pause.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. There's so much value in that. Oh my goodness. Yes. So, oh my gosh, we're almost out of time here, but please tell us, Dr. Kim, please tell us where people can find out more about your book, where they can purchase it.
Yes.
I have one on display here
Thank
on
you.
set.
So
It's a gorgeous book. I mean, it's and I love the hardcover. But where can people find this and find out more about you and your, I know you also have a wellness brand,
yes.
right? Where you, for,
yes,
beauty
absolutely.
stuff and moisturizers, all this, where can people find out more information about you?
Thank you for that. So first of all, to answer the first question, Myung Sung, The Korean Art of Living Meditation, can be found at any of the good bookstores around us. So Barnes and Noble, you got your Hudson's, I just went to my community bookstore, Warwick's. That's so important. So I'm a huge supporter of our bookstores. But we can also, of course, find the book on Amazon, Target, Walmart, basically anywhere you can find books. You can find me at my website, JenelleKim.com, where I certainly dive into the meditation or philosophy aspect as well as the medicine aspect, where I do go that much further into my lab, JBK Wellness Labs. In short, we're a contract manufacturing lab where all of the formulas are rooted in the herbal medicine as it's been passed down through my lineage. I speak all over the world on proper formulation. So whether that is in beauty and wellness, which I have certainly been a part of for about 20 years now, whether that's internal health, again, the wellness nutraceutical end. So it's very important to me. Something I've been doing for some time now. 20 years is some time. Who would have thought? Definitely also on social media. So I try to be.
It goes quickly, doesn't it? Yes, those years
Yes.
fly. Oh my goodness. Well, it has been such a gift to share energy with you here today. Thank you so much for being a part of Raise Your Vibes and elevating the bright vibration of those near and far. Hopefully they have learned something today about connection, about energy. I mean, we are all connected, and when you vibe higher, we vibe higher, and so does our world. So it's such an important thing that we raise our vibes together. And in close, I always love to leave the audience with a sacred Reiki Reihu blessing for your highest good. And you can learn more about how Reiki works and how you can create positive changes for your own life at Crystalreikihealer.com. So please just take a moment, settle into your sacred space, whether it's in the car, at home, or simply with your intention to accept this moment of positive healing vibration. And bringing our hands down to Gasao. And you can hold your hands in your lap. You can hold them in prayer position. Just rest easy and allow yourself to be open to receive. And then this goes through sending light and love to your crown, your third eye, bringing that gorgeous, universal, divine healing. That things that come through your mouth speak from a place of love, that you communicate and that you receive communication from a place of love. Through your heart center, what is important to you shines through with love, our highest vibration. Through your hands, that what you may touch may be gifted with the universal divine light of love. And then pulling that energy down through your entire vessel, your physical being, and showering over your crown. Thank you so much. Please take a moment of gratitude for this blessing and this energy. Whenever you are ready, please go ahead and have some cool water to assist grounding. I am your host, Crystalreikihealer, Athena Bahri, and I'm so grateful to have shared energy with you today with the wonderful support of our sponsor, Westwood Clinic. Living without pain is their gift to you. Join me next week here on KP Media TV for another episode of Raise Your Vibes. Wishing you so much love, healing, and many blessings. We would love to feature your brands and products on our show, Raise Your Vibes. Please contact info@raiseyourvibestv.com for sponsorship opportunities to raise awareness to your brand. Disclaimer: Reiki and other forms of energy healing shared on the show are meant to be supplementary healing practices. Always contact your medical licensed professional for questions or concerns regarding your physical, emotional, and mental health. Thank you.